haven't heard from Shameen, right? Okay. So we haven't heard from Shameen, right?
I have not heard from Shamim, no.
Victoria, you're muted. Like you.
I'm sorry, I'm using my phone and I never Zoom on my phone. So it's like a whole new experience here.
Okay. All right, great. We're going to call the meeting to order. I haven't heard from Shameen, and Will called Pat and said he couldn't come. So
Yeah.
it's just the four of us. And we're here to talk about the ARPA grants and stuff. It sounds to me, Julia and I were talking earlier, it sounds to me like the town council has decided that we're to come up with what we want to fund, and then come up with, the application and the scoring sheet, et cetera, determine what our priorities are, which hopefully will be met with the council, right, Pat?
Yes, and it sounds like they'd like that to happen in the fall.
Right.
I think they want maybe a first meeting with them in one of the first meetings in September, so that it can go out. I mean, they'd really like to get it out in the fall.
Okay.
So,
right.
I think they're going to go along with probably whatever you recommend. I mean, that's the feeling I'm getting. You probably got that same feeling from the council meeting.
Yeah, they'll do whatever, we decide.
Yeah, they trust that you're going to.
Yeah. And I think their priorities are probably the same as ours anyway, so. From what I gather. But so we have to come up with an application form, a scoring form, right? So,
Correct.
So we're looking at definitely one-time funding.
Yes.
Right.
So that would include program funding and capital projects, or
it would include capital?
Yes, it could include capital. You see the I know I had sent out the summary of the ARPA, that and so certainly anything that would be able to provide touchless safety, responding in any way to COVID. And there's a lot of things that you could kind of add into that, even things like, improving bathroom space, making whatever space either safer, better, or a capital project that just improves a agency that provides the services that they're, so yes, I think there probably would be some leeway in what was considered, just because although it is ARPA funding and they are honoring the ARPA funding, one of the allowable uses is funding 2 agencies, so which isn't as specified as it is to the town, how the town can use it, which is interesting, but yeah. So I think that capital, and in fact, to some extent, one-time uses are better because, we'd have to put something on how it would be sustainable, or would the program just end, when the funding was up. So, and that on most grants, that's part of what you scored on. If they start something that's not sustainable and they'd be relying on funding that they wouldn't get from, sustainability is usually part of what you score a one-time grant on.
So conceivably, an out-of-town agency who service Mansfield clients could apply for the money. Okay.
Yes. Okay. And that's true with our current agency grants, if they're regional agencies or, serve, they just have to be providing service to Mansfield. And usually it's prioritized by agencies either that do something that the town can't do, or provide a service that is mostly to Mansfield. You know what I mean? The funding's only going to be used for Mansfield residents, even though they serve regionally. So that tends to be what they look more favorably upon. For example, we don't have a shelter in town.
Right.
So we have to be able to send people to other shelters out of town.
Right.
Wayne does the Operation Fuel. We don't do Operation Fuel. Our people couldn't access Operation Fuel if Wayne didn't do it. So we do it on a regional basis. So those programs, you know, are kind of more what they look at.
Okay.
So
So,
I have a question just
Yeah.
about the sustainability piece, because ARPA itself is not sustainable funding,
Right.
and sort of the idea behind it is there was this big crisis. There are people who are suffering and hurting because they lost jobs, all of that, and so we've got this emergency funding to help people get through it. And so I guess I'm wondering, is there an argument for some money being available to address that piece? So if an agency wanted to apply and say, look, we still have a ton of families who can't pay their electric bill or who can't pay their rent. And so we'd like to use this knowing that the money is going to be gone in 2 years.
Yes, and actually, but those are one-shot deal helps. I can see how you could do that. The problem would be like, we're going to create an adult day healthcare program, and when the money ends, it's gone. And we know that won't be sustainable unless they have a plan for sustainability.
Got it.
okay.
And I also would add to that, because I was looking through, because I'm thinking, okay, we could apply for rental assistance, but the town is already going to be providing some
Yes.
sort of housing assistance. So we want to make
Right.
sure that we're not duplicating what's already going to be going through the Human Services Department.
Right,
So,
correct.
and any kind of financial assistance like that, I would think would be limited to Mansfield residents.
Absolutely. It would only be Mansfield residents.
So the other thing that I was wondering is, I mean, there's this huge need for mental health services.
Right.
But
Correct.
that's one of those things, like if someone applies for money to hire a therapist, then that's not sustainable.
Right.
And so I'm not
Because
sure
once
how
money's gone, it's gone.
Yeah, so that's,
But there would be an argument for, we want to be able to offer a sliding scale for Mansfield residents to receive our mental health service. See what I'm saying? So that
I
for that
do.
period of time, as long as that money lasts, they would be able to, and that fits very well with the, it's a crisis that we're going to try to get through, kind of a thing. Because the money does have to be spent within a certain period of time too. They have like, I think, a 2-year window to spend it. So, although one could argue that the town is spending it by giving it to, giving it to the agency. So there may be a little leeway with that. But like I said, so there may be some, we're going to offer this, although I don't want to use food security because in some fashion that's been overused.
That's right.
Although I will say our ARPA, our funding that we got for our Helping Hands program is ending in December. And I don't care how many times you tell these people it's ending in December, they are not hearing it. And it's going to be a huge shock for these people who have been getting hundreds of dollars to help with their grocery bills, for 18 months, that now all of a sudden they're not going to be, that program's going away because it was always meant to be a temporary program. But will be hard for people who, have gotten very used to that. And it's not like grocery prices have come down. So
if an agency wanted to apply for monies to continue that, they could do that, right?
they could do that, yes.
Okay.
Another
Of course,
area
that's
I would
$500
think,
million program, just so you know. There was also childcare assistance in that as well. So that it's another thing that I know that was one of the priorities, but that might be another thing that an agency could apply for, to offer scholarships, for childcare.
and another thing that I've been getting a lot of requests for, and I don't know about you guys, but is transportation assistance, car repairs. We've gone through a lot of money in that area. I don't know if it's a priority.
Yeah, we can,
but-
yeah. Yeah, we can use our Neighbors Helping Neighbors program for that, but that's limited. I mean, it doesn't cover a huge car repair, might help someone get, a couple new tires or but sometimes these old clunkers people have that they can
Right.
afford. I mean, you're talking about constantly breaking down and expensive repairs. So,
Yeah,
and
we
that's how
just
you
did,
keep people working.
right. It's exactly right. We just did like $4,000 for one person out of COVID funds. Thank God we had them, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's tough one.
Right.
Okay,
So again, I mean, I think, it can be fairly broad in many ways because there's lots of ways people have suffered, and everything's gone up in price.
Right.
And mental health, it's accessibility to mental health. It's, we even have people who have insurance that have a hard time finding services. And I can tell you that those agencies that rely heavily on very low paying salaried people are not getting them anymore because there is a lot of money out there right now for mental health services that's going to agencies, and they're having to compete and offer higher salaries. So some of the agencies like United Services and that have benefited from people that are just out of school and are looking to get licensed. They do have heavy turnover. Now they can't even recruit those people because there's a high level of competition. So it's tough for some of those nonprofit agencies that pay really low salaries.
Right.
That a lot of our people really depend on, like I said.
I think we'd have a better success. I don't know, like outlining the people who are not able to apply for this
Right.
than
Yeah.
trying to
Right.
limit it to those who can apply for this.
Right.
And what you're saying right
I
now,
think we can list
start
all the
like a job
priorities.
training. I'm sorry.
Yep. No, a job
Um,
training should do it.
Like something like that where you're training, like I'm thinking about ACE Access Agency, for example. One of the things I would
Right.
love if they would apply for would be sort of a job training program for lower level case managers where they could train them to administer some of the funding that they're getting to assist
Right.
people that's getting bottlenecked over there right now.
Yeah.
So if funds were available, that's what I would ask for them to do, is be to apply
Right.
or something like that.
And as you know, that's the workforce issue is huge
Horrible.
in acts. That's another agency that, like I'm talking about, that if we're struggling here, and not in the sense that I am not worried about being able to recruit because it's a good job, but I can't even imagine what it's like for those agencies that are having heavy duty expectation. They're getting funds to distribute to
Right.
low income people and can't do it because they don't have the infrastructure.
It's at critical proportions right now. It really
Yeah.
is. I yeah, it's very frustrating.
Okay, so
Well-
so when we write up the RFP, it should be pretty broad.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I think, you can put those priorities down that you shared: mental health, access to childcare, housing and homelessness. I mean, that's huge. We were just going through our back to school list, by the way, and it's amazing how many low income people now that were clients before had to move out of town because of the price of rentals. We've lost a lot of families.
Yeah.
And that affects the town because that affects our state funding.
Yes.
And it affects the school system. It affects all kinds of stuff. So
Right.
Okay.
it certainly affects our affordable, that the whole not just affordable, but low income housing. I mean, we're just in desperate straits here. It's all over, but like I said, the students really impact us here with that. They push the rental property to such an extent.
It's the same thing in Willimantic. It's horrible.
Yeah.
So we can fund housing initiatives with this, even though there's already 500,000 set aside for that?
That's different funds, and that's gonna go to the affordable housing projects that they have going
Okay,
on
got
here.
it. Yep.
So
Isn't there some rental assistance money though included in that? I thought
that's in our department. There's $150,000 that can be used for rental, mortgage, and utilities here.
so that I would say that we exclude that from this RFP. If you guys have $150,000 for rental and mortgage assistance for Mansfield people.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, but and they have said we could come back for more. We could ask for more if because there are some funds that are not designated. So.
Yeah.
Okay, but
Okay.
if nothing else, it's a lower priority than some of the other ones that are just not
Right.
funded right now.
Right,
So,
right. I think emergency housing should still be listed in that though, because that's something that we don't.
Like shelter? Is that what you're,
Yeah, I think that,
I
I
agree.
don't think shelters, because that's totally different than what we're talking about.
Yeah,
We're talking about helping people retain what they have.
right.
Or like rapid rehousing, any programs that people have with that, I would think that would be a potential eligible.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering if the next step is for maybe somebody to take the previous RFP and suggest some edits to it so it meets this particular objective. Would that make sense as a next?
Yeah, I mean, it isn't really an RFP, it's just an application letter. That's part of the you mean for the agency grant applications, Julia, is that what you're talking about for
Yeah,
the annual
I mean,
ones?
we need some kind of process for them to apply for this, right?
Right, so I can did I send out those packets of what we send out every year? I thought I had, but I can send those out
okay,
again.
That's a
not-
good
This is
point
gonna
though,
be-
Julia, that,
Oh, sure.
and I'm sorry for being late and jumping
No.
right in the middle of it, but I wonder if, Pat, is there an ability for your office to reconcile the two pieces?
I think what I'll do is I'll send it out to you. I think this will need more of a description than that, because this actually, the letter was backed into, they were already given the grants, and it it was kind of the application, and that was backed into, I guess that's the best way to explain it. So it's
So
not
we
like the
don't call it,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry,
we
we
don't
don't
call
call
it
it an
RFP.
RFP?
We call it an agency funding application.
Which thing are you referring to right now?
That's the one that we have every year.
Uh-huh.
There's no RFP. It's just an application.
It's the same
current
thing. It's just a different name. It's a request for a
Right.
proposal for a program. Yeah.
you can
Right.
just switch the
But
words around.
but I'm used to RFPs that are, you know what I mean? A little more lengthy.
I
and
don't think we
descriptive.
want to do a huge RFP for
No.
this funding
Okay.
either. We just
Okay.
want,
We wanted a description. That's what I'm saying, a description that goes out to agencies with the application, correct?
correct, but I do think the application needs to be looked at again with the priorities of the ARPA
Right.
funding that we're doing in mind, because
Right.
I don't know if there's anything for capital projects that would be addressed in the current application. So it's got to be a little more, I guess, broad.
It's got to be a little more targeted. The application is pretty
Yeah,
open. Doesn't have guidance it really doesn't, I don't think, have guidance at all how much what you should apply for, really. It just says nonprofits,
And
you know, and that,
we've never given a grant for capital improvements anyway, in all the years
no,
that we've been doing it.
no,
So,
but there's nothing that excludes it.
yeah, but we
We've
never
just
did
never
it.
done it.
Yeah.
And since I've been here, the only thing I remember coming in was the housing authority wanted money to build a gazebo.
I don't even remember that. They didn't get it.
That was when I first started. We didn't fund it, no.
Okay,
So, yes, I will send that out. If you want to kind of
okay.
put your ideas together, and absolutely, we can wordsmith it here. I mean, we have the application in that. But I'd want you to look at it. And I think some of the things that I think council would probably want guidance on would be what would be the range of grants, the amounts, and number.
Yeah, I think that's the real tricky thing here, because if we're with the potential for capital, I mean, you could have some that are a lot more than anything that has been given for those agency grants.
Right.
Well, I mean, we normally give out what, around under 50,000, and this is 350,000.
350,000.
Right.
And
But I think you have to set a roof, you know, whether that's 25,000 or, you know, I mean, I think you do have to set a roof.
Can we decide as a committee not to include capital improvements in the RFP?
I think you can decide whatever. I know that ARPA doesn't rule it out,
Okay,
you know, but it specifies what type of capital, that I can tell you,
right.
you know. It's really about infrastructure that helps with, you know, touchless and infection control type stuff, and ease of access for clients, that kind of stuff.
Okay,
It's not like having a refrigerator in a food pantry to store additional food.
It can be.
I'd hate to restrict something like that. If
Okay.
someone said, you know,
well, when I think
Right.
of capital improvements, I think of building a building or something like that, you know.
Right. But it could be, let's say somebody needs a van,
Yeah,
you know,
Right.
or
that's what I was thinking of.
someone needs a piece of kitchen equipment,
Right.
or someone needs some classroom equipment for in a you know, or a, you know, replacement of rugs in a childcare center. I mean, it doesn't have to be a huge amount, but it, you
Right.
know, or it could be improving
And
technology.
speaking from experience, those are the kinds of things that, you know, there's not always a lot of funds left over to purchase. So I would like to see things like that left in it.
okay.
Yeah, technology is really hard for nonprofits to update.
Well, we can reflect that in the RFP when we write it up.
Right. I mean, you can also put a cap on how much that could be. You know, you could say capital projects up to, I don't know, 5,000 or 10,000, or however you want to do it too.
Okay,
And I have seen that, you know, where, you know, an RFP says capital up to, you know, so much.
okay.
Are there any
So
other
I-
towns that have put something like this out that you're aware of, Pat, that we could take a look at? 'Cause usually with foundation grants and whatnot, that I'm aware of, they're always so targeted, you know, to a certain
Right,
program area. This seems pretty
right.
overwhelming
I
to
can
sort of
say-
put it into priorities.
I can say I have asked and haven't found anybody. Most towns are using the money for themselves on their own.
Mm.
On their own projects, you know, because it was pretty broad what they could do. I mean, you know, water and sewer projects, you know, broadband projects. So a lot of towns have opted to do, you know, and again, Mansfield also got more money than towns that are comparable size. So,
right, so
But I haven't seen it. Victoria, if you hear of anybody that's doing it, that would be really good information, but I haven't seen from counterparts of anybody else that's doing it.
I mean,
And
if,
in fact, many didn't even give any funds to human service organizations that were town human service organizations. So,
if we set a limit of, I just pulled this out, like, if we set a limit of $25,000 and everybody who applied for $25,000, we could fund 14 projects, but not everybody
Correct.
would apply for that amount. So,
right.
so, you know, we could say that we anticipate awards between $5,000 and $25,000, and that we would give, I don't know, 10 to 30 awards or something.
Right.
okay.
And how broad do we go with this RFP? Like that, how are we going to publicize this?
They're going to want to publicize it quite a bit here in the town. And I am sure our communications person, Margaret, will be very involved in how it goes out as well. So they're
did-
going to
so
want to
you-
get it out to
We'll
not
get
only the
15
agencies.
applications.
Can you
Pardon?
remind me about, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
Victoria, are you talking? She's frozen.
She's-
Oh, there.
I just wanted to make sure that we would get their amount of, because we don't get 15 to 25 applications now. I know that we're asking for small amounts, but you know, that's a lot of applications in this area. 15 to 25, I guess, or 10 to 15. What did you just say? That's a lot of
How many,
applications from nonprofits.
how many
I
were
can
on that
say
list last time?
What was that? Shameen?
I can say that, you know, we can do more than one wave of it. We have time to, if we don't give all the money away in that first round, there is time to do a second wave.
Thanks, Julia.
Okay.
I'm wondering, can you refresh my memory about where we landed with, is there a priority for services rendered to Mansfield residents or?
Yes.
Okay,
Absolutely. So even if it was to replenish, say, I don't know, a heating fund, it would be for Mansfield residents who were partaking.
Right. But it could be a capital project for an agency that serves Mansfield's residents, but would also serves other communities too. So for example, if a food pantry wanted a new refrigerator,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying, or for a walk-in freezer or whatever built on, you know, it wouldn't be, oh, you can only put food exclusively for Mansfield residents in that. So
Right.
so there is some leeway.
Well, I'm
with
just thinking about, you know, where we started with this, which was we didn't have a lot of criteria. So
Mhm.
as we're narrowing it down, it'll be a lot easier to know who's in the ballpark and who isn't, and
Mhm.
kind of be a little more strategic. So any of that detail helps, and I almost envision then whatever rubric we had last time, maybe it's got to be better aligned to whatever this new one is.
Mhm.
And I apologize if you've had this discussion already.
Yeah.
We didn't.
There
Yeah.
is there's a common grant application that the Council of Philanthropy has, and a lot of foundations use that as a base. I don't know, it asks for quite a substantial amount of information though. So I think we have to also be mindful of what it is that we need to know, and
Mhm.
before we just blanket it with, you know, what everybody else thinks they should want to know about a project. I swear, sometimes that people don't even read those applications, but there's so much information in them.
Mhm.
Take a lot of time to prepare.
I mean, I
Did
just
you-
remember doing all the logic model stuff because I worked a lot with Hartford Foundation for Public Giving. I mean, you know what you had to do. You know, it was. But then again, they were giving out huge amounts of money as well.
Right.
So
Right.
someone's going to give you $150,000. You might, you know, be willing
Right.
to.
And United Way is another good model because they fund a variety of different priority areas.
Mhm.
So what's
Well,
our time
again,
frame for all of this?
Well, the council really would like a process and a, kind of priority, and so that could go out in the fall, early fall if possible. So they're really looking for recommendations from the Human Service Advisory to come to them at the beginning of September, so that it can be tweaked and go out in the early fall. That's their hope.
So they're looking for a priority, they're looking for instructions and an application.
And they're looking for an
from us.
application.
Okay.
Yes.
So do we need another working meeting to
Yes.
lift this all up?
Yeah.
And maybe, are we ready for an in-person meeting? I almost envision getting a room here and just
Uh-huh.
hammering it out and
Yes.
just getting it done.
Yes.
Yeah, where we
Yes,
can bring
yes,
a
yes.
laptop maybe and just even work with what we already have and do the edits.
Put it up in conference room B, edit it,
Yep.
get it going. So I
Yeah.
think some of the things that would be helpful would be maybe a copy of one of these common applications for philanthropy.
I can get that out. Yeah.
Just so
And I
that, I
can-
mean, it's easier to X out things than it is to start from.
Right.
Exactly.
And I can certainly send you our whole packet, including the letter that we send out when we do, you know what I mean? What's required, our application, and then the score sheet again. I can get that out, the blank out. So however you want to take a look at that and if that's useful or not useful.
Okay, so perhaps we should set up a meeting to all meet
Yeah.
in a couple of weeks. We'll have all this stuff, right?
When do you want to meet?
Mhm.
Well, it has to be, Julia's going away for a couple of weeks
Oh, no.
on Saturday and Pat, you're leaving.
On Wednesday, on Tuesday night.
Okay, so you'll be back when?
I'll be back that week of the 15th.
And what about you, Julia? You'll be back?
Yeah, I'll be back by then.
Okay, so we can look maybe either the end of that week or beginning of the following week. What do you think?
Okay, let me look.
I'm
here.
going to be leaving. I'm leaving right after Steeplechase on the 22nd. So it would have to be the week of the 15th.
Okay, so you
Okay.
want to, like, maybe the 18th or the 19th? Does that work for everybody? One of those days?
18th, I can't do the 19th, but I could do the 18th.
Okay, that's Thursday, the 18th.
What time are you thinking?
Whatever works for people. I'm flexible.
I'm pretty flexible too that day.
Anytime is fine with me that day.
I'm sorry, what was that? You're flexible too? Yeah.
Me too. And this is a working meeting, so we're looking at punching this out, right?
Yeah,
Do you want to try like early afternoon then? I mean, Pat,
Yeah.
will you try to get the room, conference room B?
Sure. So what are you thinking, like 1:30 maybe on?
Yeah, that'd be
or
good.
1 or 1:30?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about if I try for 1:30?
okay. On the 18th.
Yeah, hopefully.
Should
I
we
mean,
take-
I will say conference room B has been pretty tight with all of the recruitments they've been doing though.
Are there any
Um,
other?
The
If the
interviews and that.
18th doesn't work, is the 15th something that people can do?
Yes,
Yes.
I can do that. That is
Um,
my first day back, but I can do that.
I could, but not between 12 and 3.
Okay. So it'd have to be early, Julia?
Yeah, or at 3 or 3:30.
On the
Okay.
15th?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Well, let's try for the let's try for the 18th first.
yeah,
Okay, and I'll get that stuff out to you all.
okay, great.
Yeah, and I'll send
Okay.
those applications out as well.
Okay, good. All right, so the
And then we'll
18th,
set up another special another
Okay.
special meeting. So,
yeah,
but it doesn't, we have different posting in that if it's going to be in person, so.
okay.
Okay,
All right, so,
all right, great.
so that's it, I guess. So we'll see everybody on the 18th at 1:30.
You have to move to adjourn.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait,
Is anybody gonna
special
Okay,
summarize?
have a
these?
nice
I'm
time in
sorry.
Alaska, and Pat, have a
Oh,
nice time in
hang on,
Hawaii.
Can I ask a
Someone-
question?
Yeah.
Hello?
Okay, go ahead.
Did someone take minutes to summarize our discussion, or do you want me to try to? Do that.
So Kathy's been doing, the general minutes you need for a meeting. Kathy just checked and conference room B is available
Okay,
at that
great.
time. So,
Great.
All right,
Um,
thank
could Kathy
Kathy.
send out the summary as soon as possible, like before the next meeting, so we could sort of be thinking about the priorities and stuff? It's just, for me, it's
Sure.
helpful, and I can type
but,
this up.
but I was gonna say, if you can type that up, because probably
I
what
will.
she's done is general minutes that we, that we would do for meeting. This is also recorded, so if you can always go back and listen to it as well. So if
Okay.
you have any questions,
Great.
but, okay.
Um,
All right,
speaking
you
of
have to
minutes-
move.
wait,
Ju-
Julia.
Julia's trying to talk.
Speaking of minutes, we didn't approve the last minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
that's right.
Okay, yeah. Have you all had a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting?
Yeah.
Are there any additions or deletions? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Okay, I can have a second?
Second,
Okay, second.
I have to abstain. I wasn't there.
Okay. Is there
Yeah.
any other business that has new or old? Any public comment?
No.
Um,
The
if
only
not, then
thing
I'll-
as I shared is that Kathy Ann
Right,
is
is leaving.
has resigned and her last day will be August 1st.
oh,
So, yeah,
So
so
there
good for
being-
her, but
Yeah.
we'll be attached. She's big shoes to fill.
So there being nothing else, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
so moved.
Okay, hey, everybody, you guys have a great time on your vacations.
Thank you.
Okay.
Enjoy.
All right, take care.
Yeah, take
Bye.
care. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Safe trips.